you came to your second album, or was your second album a EP?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So, yeah, the second album was an EP only because I recorded Boom Shakalak, and it was my part of my second album. And they said, "Oh, we need to release this quick time," because it was a summer. And we said, "No, I'm doing an album." They said, "No, let's just put it out as your first 4 tracks. Have you got any tracks?" I said, "Yeah, I've done 4. Let's put it out." So yeah, man, we like that. It was a summer. They put it out as EP, and then it came out on my second album. It did come out on the second. Yeah, it did come out on the second album. So it came out as a single, as an EP, and then that blew up around the world. And that was the global big hit. Yeah.
What was it about that song in particular you think just took the entire globe by storm?
I just think it was a feel-good, fun song. For people that don't know, it was on the back of the whole movement in the 90s where Shaggy had the Carolina. You know what I mean? That kind of 60s roots, you know what I mean? The different kind of groove. And then Brian and Tony Gold had some compliments, girl, of your kiss. So that same different groove, we said, all right. And then there was obviously the Tease Me, Shackling with Some Pliers, and Twist and Shout. So that was that kind of, I mean, say, yeah, I said, I would love to, you know what reggae is like, if there was a little vibe going on, you want to do your vibe. So my thing was that I did that song, but the other songs, every single song I mentioned was a cover version. Mine was an original song. So that's why I take, you know, a lot of pride out of that. So I'm going to write a new song based off that thing, but I wanted to make it my own. It was producer setting again in Birmingham. It was just something fun that we did in the summer. And I took it to the record company, and they were kind of shocked them because it wasn't the Bangra Muffin thing, it wasn't the dancehall thing. I said, yeah, man, it was just a little vibe, and they actually didn't release it as an A-side. So that's the true story. So, you know, you find out the real story. They released it as a B-side to a record which was called AIDS Warning. Great song about AIDS. This is a warning to each and every. Great song. You know what I mean? And because they wanted to, I respect them because they never wanted to go for the big pop thing. They love the record still, but they wanted to keep it original. And we say, yeah, but you can't, you know, once a record's done and it's a vibe, you have to just run with it. So eventually it was Radio 1, the national radio station in this country. They turned it over. They played the A side. They A-listed it on the radio station, and that's our national station. And then record company ring me and said, "Boy, Apache, I think we need to release this." We say, "You're damn right." And yeah, man, it came straight in the charts at number 8. I did Top of the Pops. He went to number 5. It was a global hit around the world. Number 1 in Brazil, many countries. It's been on over 200 TV commercials. It's actually on a TV commercial right now as we speak for a year in the UK with Anthony Joshua, the big boxer, with a Lynx ad with a spray. And it's gone on obviously eight Hollywood movies. You know, I mean, Dumb and Dumber 1 and 2, Scooby-Doo 2, 3, so many. So it just shows that, you know, we could be a part of the world. A little writer, singer from Handsworth could be a part of the global stage. You know what I mean? It's made me. So, you know, and what happens with them kind of big tunes? It brings, even if it's a fun tune, it brings then more fans to you, and then those fans start looking at your more serious work then. So it works. It's all win-win, and it's obviously an original song. So, you know, thank God it made me a little bit of money, especially in the lockdown with the TV commercial. But yeah, that's how it goes. You know, it's blessings from God. Blessings from God. Give me a big tune. Could have given me a few more, but yeah, man, the one is good. Seven top 40 hits in the UK. The music's taken me around the world 8 times in 30 years. I'm celebrating 30 years. And as I said, those early blessings, the foundation people you have to lay before, that's what carries you. Just like, you know, when you're building your home, you're building your life. Those foundation years were important from artists, from sound systems, from community. And a lot of that has broken down. Community has broken down. Sound systems don't give you the platform. Music business has got harder. So I always believe in this let's come closer. You know, I don't know whether people know I have my own music academy in the UK, so we can talk about that, where I'm helping young people. Yeah. So there's a lot to do. You know, once you have a name and fame, there's things to do. But, you know, I have to give thanks. Always give thanks on the journey and what it represents.
Definitely. It's just crazy, the whole experience and everything that you've lived. To see that you've had this massive song that just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. It's like commercials, movies, and everything. Tell me 3 of the craziest experiences that song has made you had when you were on the road. Like 3 places where you said, "Holy smokes, I didn't really expect this one here."
Wow, that's a good question. That's a good question. Not sure. I'm not sure. It was just strange to hear the song played in certain places like Philippines. That was so big in Philippines, Australia, Perth. I mean, that song took me out the box, took me to places where I never go. It was great to see it performed by, as I said before, some of my music is enjoyed by the reggae community, the black community, some of it by the Asian, some by both, obviously. But this is the one song, others, but one song that's enjoyed globally. You could be, it's taken me right across South Africa, Kenya, Zambia. I mean, it's global. It's global. And I think that, the little stories of people telling me, especially in Canada, they said, I remember friends ringing me and they live out, in maybe areas where it's more dominantly white people. And they were saying to me, I felt so good going to the cinema and putting the movie on with my friends, and the incomes and I'm telling them it's an Indian guy, say one of ours. So those kind of stories, it means so much to me. And even stories where people have had mixed marriages, black and Asian maybe, and someone said, why the parents never liked my husband, but the music brought you closer. Because here's a mix of the music. The music mixes the culture. It represents that culture of coming together and being different and respecting all people. And so it just did a lot. It did a lot more than I thought. So God uses us for those things. It uses us for that. But yeah, great stories. So many stories of what the music meant, especially for people from the reggae and the Asian, because they know it's hard to have a song in the national charts in this country, or it's still a reggae. It's a reggae song. It's on the TV now. So anyone in the UK, we've driven you crazy every single channel for a year. So I think that now that's the longest running reggae song on national radio in this on national TV in this country ever. So big respects. So it means so much, guys. And it means nothing without you guys supporting around the world. So I thank you for everyone that's listening and haven't switched off yet.
And even when it was in movies like Dumb and Dumber and stuff, how did that make you feel to know that, okay, this is my song in these massive movies? Even Scooby-Doo soundtrack, it made a lot of sense to have it in the Scooby-Doo soundtrack because it has that type of feel to it. I get that 100%. But the Dumb and Dumbers, those ones are the real wild ones for me.
Yeah, I mean, it feels great. I mean, Dumb and Dumber 1, the whole movie starts off with a song, and they keep repeating the song for a few minutes, and I'm thinking, wow. So, and I'm thinking, do these guys even know who I am? Probably not. One day I'm going to ring Jim Carrey and say, you know what? And 20 years later, they rang me, not Jim Carrey, but the same team rang me and said, that song was so big in Dumb and Dumber 1, can we have it for Dumb and Dumber 2? And I thought, wow, so the song actually became a part of the movie, if you like. But people would stop me and say, they wouldn't say Apache or Boom Shakala, they say, Dumb and Dumber. Right. That's it. So it just, I mean, and then people feel proud. You had a song on Dumb and Dumber, Jim Carrey. And it means so much to people. It means so much to me, obviously, and to hear it again, on the TV and, as I said, movies, still evergreen tune. It means a lot to my family, my kids that weren't even alive then. So yeah, it just goes on, and that's the beauty of a song. We still hear Bob Marley today. You write great songs and they're evergreen. They will be played. There's lots of songs that are out there, so people need to spend time on those songs. The vibe, the feel, timing is key when you release those songs. What it represents, and to capture the mood of a country and the feel. So yeah. Thank you so much.
This podcast is brought to you by www.twolinedmusichut.com.